All right, we're in here. TCU football Frog Factor post game show. Skillet is coming back to Fort Worth. It will stay there for the foreseeable future as the Frogs get a 35-24 victory over the SMU Mustangs on Saturday afternoon. So first things first, you get a win. I thought the defense was pretty solid today. I mean, they gave up some big plays. They gave up 24 points. Kevin Jennings made some good throws, but you look at the numbers. They held SMU to 94 yards rushing. And I talked about this on the show either Monday or Wednesday. I can't remember. But I said, Rhett Lashley, as a play caller, as a head coach, I feel like most people make the mistake of thinking he's this air it out, spread it out type of guy. But he's from the Gus Malzahn coaching tree. And he's really about that power running game. Like, that's the base of their offense. That's what they want to do. They got to transfer running back from UCLA in the offseason, CJ Harden, 15 carries, 56 yards, 3.7 yards per carry as a team on 3.5 yards per carry. So I thought they did a good job in stopping SMU's run game, especially in the second half, cutting down on what they struggled with in the first half, in my opinion, giving up too many yards on first downs, and then third and long was an issue all day long. Now, I will say, I saw Sonny say in the post-game press conference that he felt like the corners played better today. Hit me up in the chat here. I don't totally agree with that. I thought Vernon Glover did some nice things on that drive after Joe asked if I'm high. No, I mean I'm didn't get a lot of sleep last night, but I'm not high. Oh, he's talking to Big Tuna. Never mind. I didn't think the corners played that well today. I thought Vernon Glover did some good things on that drive where TCU had taken the lead 28-24. He got a couple stops. That was big, right? He was really good. Overall, though, I still feel like there were too many big plays in the passing game, too much given up that way. But, I also would say I would love for TCU to have a really salty defense, and I still think that's possible. But I feel like you have to evaluate teams individually based on their strengths and weaknesses and how they allocate their resources. TCU allocated their resources on this football team to be really good on the offensive side of the ball. Now, it doesn't mean they can't be good defensively. I think they're a better defensive team this season, and as the year goes on, they can continue to improve. Didn't get enough pressure on Kevin Jennings today. Paulo Wale had a sack. I believe Caleb Islam-Zor had a sack. Didn't get home enough on those blitzes. Offensively, Big Tuna said in the chat that he thought Josh Hoover was bad. I wouldn't say he was bad. I felt like he was inconsistent. Now, I'm not going to make excuses for him. I think it comes back to the disappointment on the offensive side of the ball for me today. And I understand Kavorian Barnes was out. He wasn't available. They were very one-dimensional. Now, from a stat standpoint, they ran for 138 yards. Trent Battle led the team, 7 carries, 60 yards. But they really got away from the run game completely in the second half. When the tide turned and SMU took the lead in the third quarter, I remember the possession before SMU took the lead, I was sitting there like, have we just completely abandoned the run game? And O-line wise, it was a rough day at the office. I felt like they struggled to get pushed consistently in the run game. Didn't protect Josh as much as I would like. But again, it all feeds into itself. When you're throwing so consistently, and he had 40 attempts today, I think Josh did. When you're throwing the ball that much, and everybody in the stadium knows you're throwing the football, and also when you put your team in situations where it's 3rd and 12, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 10, that makes it really tough to pass block, and it makes it tough to complete passes. Now, that being said, Eric Mcalister, welcome to the chat. I can't believe I went almost 5 minutes here without talking about the game that he had. He was fantastic. 250 yards today. 254, I believe, was the final total. 8 catches, 254 yards, 3 touchdowns. Should have had 4 touchdowns, or I guess you could say, like, depending on how the game played out, maybe it was different. But Eric caught that ball and got a foot in bounds near the end zone. I still don't understand why that wasn't reviewed or reversed. But Max Duggan was in against Baylor years ago. Eric Mcalister was in on that play, and he made the catch. That should have been a touchdown, and that really flipped the football game. I mean, it ended up being a missed field goal, and then SMU went down and scored. That was a huge moment in that ball game, but TCU was able to overcome it. And I feel like the big overall theme, and I've been very encouraged by this every week so far, aside from maybe the fourth quarter of the ACU game. I just felt like the team was mentally tough. They hung in there. A lot of things went wrong. It was a rivalry game. We all know everything behind it. Last iron skillet. Big opportunity for SMU to take those bragging rights. And I mean, on a more real level, SMU already lost a game to Baylor. And I understand there's still a path for them to make the playoff if they win the ACC. I don't think that's a bad football team. I think TCU got a good win against a good team and got it done today. Chris says corners, I'll give them a C plus, defensive line C plus, made timely pressures and stops, and that's all you need to win. I think that's a pretty good summarization. I mean, is that a word? I don't know. That sums it up well. They made timely stops today. They weren't great all game long, but again, I would say there's a way for TCU to be successful all season long by either forcing turnovers, getting stops in big time situations, and then being consistent on offense. And Jamal Johnson, 2 picks today. That was cool to see. In the fourth quarter, SMU was having to air it out, but still a big deal. Hoover for Heisman says Josh Hoover put up 48 fantasy points for me in fantasy football. Awesome. Glad you had a good day. I mean, yeah, he made big time throws. I thought he was solid. I wouldn't say it was his best game. Again, I thought there was some inconsistency there. He missed some throws. But this offense is at its best when it has more balance. Like they can air it out and make plays, and they did that today. SMU's secondary is pretty bad. But when everybody knows you have to throw the football, it makes it tougher for you to get those timing routes down and to protect your quarterback. But going back to Eric Mcalister for a second, just a big time game. We've been wondering through the first couple weeks, okay, where is he at? North Carolina, they rolled the safety over to his side. They were very adamant that they weren't going to let him make plays. So it was Jordan Dwyer's time to shine. And Jordan made big plays in the ACU game too. Eric wasn't targeted as much. Jordan had 3 catches today. He was still involved. But Eric Mcalister had the coverage matchups that they liked. And they went to him on a more consistent basis. You know, those 2 slants that he got and took to the house, those are big time plays. They were both on third down in critical moments. That was a 3rd and 5. You're down 24-21. The defense had just given up a touchdown. That was going to be a quick 3 and out if you didn't get the first down there. And it could have gotten sideways real fast where you get the ball back with 6 or 7 minutes left and you look up and suddenly you're down 11 points. But thankfully, Josh made a good throw. Eric made a good catch in traffic, bounced off the defenders, took it to the house, touchdown. Josh Hoover said in the post game, he's okay. He got rolled up there on that 4th and 15 play. I understand why they were throwing it. They were sort of in no man's land. I assume they didn't want to risk the punt there, to risk like the punt getting blocked and returned back for a touchdown or something. I think I would have run the football because they didn't even throw to the sticks. Like if they threw a deep pass, I would understand like, okay, you're just going to throw it up in the air, try to get a first down and ice the rest of the clock. Throwing the out route to man jack, maybe that wasn't the read. Maybe it was just because of the pressure. But Ryan Hughes gets blown up. He rolls over Josh Hoover. And my first thought was, oh gosh, what if he sprained an ankle, right? Because they play Arizona State on Friday in the Big 12 opener. There's not, and it's a road game. There's not going to be a lot of time to heal and recover. But Josh said in the post-game interview with ESPN, and then I saw people that were in the post-game press conference, he said, look, it was just, I cramped up. Body kind of seized up on me for a minute. I'm good, which is welcome news. Those touchdowns that Mcalister had on the slant patterns were a big deal. Another huge play. I think, again, it was a 3rd down, 3rd and long. Josh is under pressure. He tries to step up and make a throw. He gets hit, and the ball just goes straight up in the air. It looked like a punt or a Hail Mary. And Mcalister did a great job. He was running his route down the field. He stopped his momentum, fought through a couple defensive backs to work back to the football, high pointed it, made a catch, keep the drive alive, go win the ball game, right? That was big. Joe said he was worried Ryan Hughes tore his calf because he instantly grabbed his calf. Yeah, I was concerned about that too. But I hope he's okay. I didn't get a Ryan Hughes update. I might look for one as we roll here. Kev says that pick should have been another touchdown to Eric. Yeah, you're right. That was a big play. And that was one where I think Mcalister should have been stronger with the football, but it was a good throw by Josh. Just a one-on-one ball. And again, that was sort of a big turning point, or could have been, because SMU got the ball back down 14-10 with a chance to go score before halftime and take the lead. And thankfully, the defense came up with a stop. That was a big deal. So good play, or good stop by the defense, and they made timely stops throughout this ball game. I don't know what the status of Kavorian Barnes is moving forward, but it's clear that TCU needs him on the field. It's not going to, I mean, your offensive line had some issues today regardless. It's not going to solve that. But I do think that he brings a toughness and a physicality to this run game that helps everybody in the room. Joe says Battle and Payne ran well today. Yeah, I thought Trent Battle was the best running back on the day. Now, he only had 7 carries, so he kind of came in with fresh legs, especially in the second half. But Trent's looked good when he's got opportunities. And I don't know if it's one of those things where they just don't feel like over the course of a game he can not handle, but maybe they think the more they get him the ball, the less production there's going to be. But both in the ACU game and this week, he just runs with purpose. He had 7 carries for 60 yards. Payne's final line was 12 carries for 53 yards. I feel like they ran the ball decently in the first half. It was really just the second half. And I also thought Kendall got away from the run game too quickly. I think he abandoned it. I didn't always love the timing of the runs. You know, it's seeing results and then reacting to it. But 2nd and 10, I feel like they run the ball in 2nd and 10 a lot, and I don't love that. That's just anecdotal. That's not me. I need to sit down and look at the data, but that's just something that I observed today. And I think in the third quarter, they got away from the run game a little bit too much. And, you know, it hurt the team. I want to talk about special teams for a second. Nate McCashlin had 1 field goal attempt, and it went wide right. That's a legitimate issue. Now, I will say TCU went for it on 4th down. They were aggressive today on the other side of the field, and it paid off for them in some ways. But it's just something to watch. Like, they're going to have to work around it for as long as Kyle Limmerman's out. I'm not sure what Nate's range is. He had distance on that kick. It wasn't like it bounced in front of the end zone or something. And it was also a tough angle. It was on the left hash, I think. But yeah, it's just something they're going to have to work around for the foreseeable future. CB says Manjack feels like a JP Richardson replacement. Yeah, I think he's filling that role as well as he can. He had, are we calling that a drop? He had 1 drop today. It was a tough play. He caught the ball. He got hit immediately coming over the middle of the field. But Manjack's a reliable target. And he's been a good player for this TCU team early in the year. Now, he only had 1 catch for 6 yards today. But I see your point, and I agree with you. I think he's a valuable player for this team moving forward. Floyd says, good to get past this game and show some moxie. Gonna have to work on discipline this week. Yeah, the penalties were a problem. The pre-snap penalties are just a killer, especially at home. And you're going into a loud environment in Tempe next week. So you got to get ready. Like, you can't have these false starts. I think part of that in the second half, that SMU D-line was getting revved up. And when that happens, your O-linemen start to get more anxious about, okay, I have to get a good get off. I need a good kick step to get my set back so I'm not getting beat off the edge immediately by these defensive ends and edge players. But even in the first half, there were just too many procedure penalties. That takes down any good offense. I didn't think the offense was bad today. I just felt like they left some meat on the bone. There were just a few drives where points were there and they didn't get them. And they had points honestly kind of stolen from them on that Mcalister should have been a touchdown catch that was called out of bounds. And I feel like as the year goes on, they have the opportunity to get more consistent and get better, and that could really raise the ceiling for this team moving forward. I'm not sure if that's unfair. Another thing too is the clock rules that were instituted a year ago. They've really changed the flow of ball games. TCU had 4 possessions in the first half, I think, and they scored 2 touchdowns. Maybe they only had 3. They only had 2 possessions through the first quarter and then early in the second quarter. And the clock rules I'm talking about, like not stopping the clock for a first down, except for within the last 2 minutes of halftime and 2 minutes of the game itself. The last 2 minutes of the ball game, I should say. That's really limited how many plays you get, how many opportunities you get, and it forces your offense to be more efficient. Joe said kind of looked like an old Bryles offense, no matter the yard if we were making it up, but don't want to live that way by any means. Right. They did a nice job on some 3rd and longs today. But yes, you have to have more manageable down distances. And the big plays were the keys in this one. I mean, that first drive, I think it was 3rd and 17, where Josh found Eric on the rollout and he caught it and took it to the house. You had the, whatever that was, like 70 yard, maybe touchdown catch on the slant pattern, the long slant touchdown catch. And so those chunk plays made a huge difference and helped this team out with the consistency issues. You're 3-0 through non-conference play. And over the past decade, that's been a really good indication of how good a TCU team is going to be. You have to keep the competition in mind. North Carolina was losing to UCF early in the ball game. Let me see what the score is now. UCF's up 13-0 on UNC with 3 minutes left in the first half. That game's in Orlando. I think North Carolina's a really bad team. It doesn't take away from what TCU did that night. I just mean I don't think they're a good football team. ACU is ACU. SMU's 2-2, but I think SMU's a legitimately good team, and there were factors and expectations around this game, with it being a rivalry game, with it being the last one for the foreseeable future, that made it trickier. And they still came out with a victory. As Floyd said, they showed some moxie today. They fought through some adversity, some of it self-inflicted, but they fought through it and got the win. When they went down 24-21 early in the fourth quarter, go get a touchdown, get a stop, go get another touchdown, interception, salt the clock away. That's what good teams do. Richard said, I didn't see any real rhythm with the run game. It was effective and ineffective at the same time. Hard to explain. Yeah, it's a pretty good synopsis. I mean, there were times where they got some chunk yardage running the ball, and I feel like if you just looked at the box score, you would probably say, oh yeah, TCU did a nice job without Kavorian Barnes running the ball. But if you watch the game, they didn't do a great job of running consistently. Joe said, how about Hoover's running? Yeah, he was like Michael Vick today. I mean, in all seriousness, he has taken a step forward there. And it's a twofold thing. Really, today was the first time we saw him do a better job of, okay, plays breaking down, 3rd down. He had the quarterback draw on 4th down, 3rd down, put my head down, go to first. He had a 3rd down where he made it 4th and 1, and then they end up converting with John Denman. And that's all you have to do. I mean, he's not a burner. He's not going to run for 200 yards in a ball game or 150. He's not going to pull it on his own read and go around the end and take it to the house. But he can use his feet to get outside the pocket and make plays in the passing game, or just take what the defense gives him at times because he's a pocket quarterback and teams are going to be so focused on trying to shut down the pass game. There will be plays where there's 4 or 5 yards at least of green grass in front of him. And if he can just make those good decisions and keep the chains moving, then it's going to benefit this offense in a big way. Somebody asked if TCU will be in the top 25 this week. I'm not sure. I know on the broadcast they were saying that TCU will be. They were pretty confident about it. I would like to see it. I think because SMU lost to Baylor, the SMU win doesn't carry as much weight as it would have a couple weeks ago. So if I had to guess, honestly, I'd say no. But maybe the top 25 AP poll will give them the benefit of the doubt. Some Sonny Dykes quotes. Sonny joked that somebody needs to teach Jamel Johnson how to run after he gets the pick, says he could have scored on both of those. Yeah, that last one, he definitely could have housed it, but he just stepped out of bounds and said, all right, let's get to the locker room. He said the offensive line performed okay, but gave it too many pressures against the 4-man front. He praised Caleb Alarm-Zor and Kylan Jackson for how effective they were in slowing down Jennings in the second half. They were the 2 best blitzers today. He was happy with holding SMU to 3.5 yards per carry. He said the corners played well. I would disagree with him slightly there. And he also joked he thinks that they might use a sledgehammer to break the iron skillet. Whether Sonny wants to admit it or not, I know he said earlier this week that when he was at SMU, the skillet wasn't a big deal until he started winning games. Nice flex. That game meant something to him. And I don't even think it was so much for the team. I don't think it had anything to do with the ramifications and the history of it, with the series ending for now. It was really about, you got embarrassed by SMU last year. And even though I thought the defense had some breakdowns today, they gave up 66 points in Dallas last season. Now, some of that was pick sixes, punt return for a touchdown. You take some off the board, but they gave up at least 40 plus points. They gave up 24 today. And honestly, after those first couple drives, I thought they settled in pretty nicely. And I feel like they played well enough to win. You'd like to see them get home more on these blitzes. I think from a secondary perspective, you want your corners to be better. You want your corners to be more consistent. But overall, I thought the defense played well enough to get a victory, and they did. And offensively, I believe consistency is just the next step for this offense. But I would say a lot of that had to do with, I don't want to put it all on one person. Kavorian Barnes makes a big difference. I believe that. And I know, like, before the year, we were talking about how is this UTSA transfer going to take over the starting running back job that seems really strange. But he has. And he's run the ball really well. And I think his physicality makes a difference for this football team and just kind of helps them set the tone, right? Joe mentioned, Sonny also said he's not scared to play SMU. Hey, when you win, you can talk all you want. And I've seen the TCU X account or Twitter account. They bookmarked some tweets, some old tweets, and they're keeping receipts. I kind of like that bit more after the UNC win. I don't know if I want it to become a regular thing, but I respect the pettiness. And last season, when I did this post-game show, there were a lot of SMU fans in the chat giving me a hard time. Deservedly so. But it's pretty silent right now. I thought TCU finished the job when they had to and handled their business and got a big victory at home against a good team. All right, Big 12 opener is this week on Friday night. Please subscribe to the Frog Factor YouTube channel. That's the best way to support the show. Thank you guys for hanging out with me this afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your football day. Watch this Arizona State Baylor game tonight. I think that's going to tell us a lot about Kenny Dillingham's team. They bounced back and got a win over Texas State after that loss to Mississippi State. But they have their Big 12 opener this evening and it should give us a pretty good preview of what next week is going to be on the road. Frogs are 3-0, undefeated in non-conference play, 2-0 against the ACC. Thanks, everybody. I'll talk to you Monday.